Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Anyone looking for a job? Okay. Well, this hopefully this will help. Do you know what? I haven't got any business cards, and I'm having a wrangle with my business partner that we should have business cards, but it's his belief that we shouldn't. So that's a good. It's a good start. So I will feed that back in the morning. So. First things first, it's great to see so many people here, and thank you so much for the invite this evening. I know Mistros do some great stuff within the kind of PA community, so it's a real honour to kind of be here to introduce myself and have a chat with you guys. So for those of you that don't know who I am, which is probably quite a few of you in here, my name is Paul Kelly, as you can see. Now, I have worked in the recruitment industry now since 1996, and I started my career with a small boutique recruitment agency, and we were specialists in PA secretarial support. And over the years, my job has kind of ranged from working with some of the world's largest law firms to some fintech startups, to sports clubs, to professional organisations, big accountancy practices. So my recruitment career kind of ranges completely across the board with lots of different sectors, but essentially the main focus in the 20 plus years that I've been doing this job has been within the PA and secretarial community. Over the last 10 years, I have been working alongside my business partner at a company called Strictly Recruitment, which is our business. We started that business from 2 people, and we're now one of the market leaders within the business support and especially secretarial and PA support staff recruitment. We've gone from 2 members of staff to 15, so we've grown quite significantly, but sensibly at the same time. And a large percentage of my job now has kind of stepped away from the front line of recruitment, and I train new employees, and I offer advice to our clients, look after market trends, and really try and push the business forward, essentially. What I have actually seen over the last kind of 2 or 3 years, and it was interesting when I was hanging my coat up, I think I overheard somebody mention everybody's a coach nowadays, and I didn't see who it was, but over the last 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden everyone's become an expert, and with the rise of social media, that's great, and everyone's got lots of things to say, and I think that's wonderful. But in recruitment, there isn't anyone really that is offering some real good value advice and tips. And what I tend to see is when you go online and you see these guides and processes and what have you, from a recruitment agency perspective, what I can see is that they're holding information back, and they're more worried about hitting their targets and making profits and getting the agency fees. And I have been working over the last year, 18 months, to kind of separate myself from that, and speak to guys like you and blow a bit of a whistle on the recruitment industry and kind of dive underneath the skim, and talk about practices that happen, warn you guys about it, and then hopefully give you guys some great tips so you can then go on and secure a good job, essentially. The way that I look at it after working for 20 years in this role, I think it's a duty and an obligation when you're in a career for such a long time to have amassed lots of experience to actually give something back to the market, and I think that's really important, and that's why I've started doing these talks and advice sessions. So as I say, look, there's loads of information out there, but regardless of market conditions, it's vital as a job seeker to really separate yourself from the crowd, because the job market is always very crowded, especially on the candidate side. So hopefully tonight there will be lots of things of interest to you, but ultimately if there's just one little tip that somebody hasn't thought of, and that goes some way into kind of helping you guys find the job of your dreams, then that's great. Then we've had a success. So a lot of it will be fairly self-explanatory and pretty straightforward. but don't worry if anything is unclear. I'll happily kind of take some questions at the end and have a chat with anyone if needs be. So off we go. Point number one. It's a very straightforward point, and everybody will think that this is pretty obvious. But I think you'll actually be surprised with how much this part of the job search is really overlooked across all generations of job seekers. Now, whether people will tell you or not, I would say probably 80% of the people that receive your CV will look at you online before contacting you, before sending you an email, before giving you a phone call. And your social channels will be the first place that they look at. Now, again, pretty obvious and pretty straightforward. It's my recommendation to really strip your profiles back whilst we're looking for a job and make your profile picture as warm and as professional if possible. Now, one of the big no-nos is avoiding certain types of pictures with perhaps some filters and what have you. That's obviously a bit of a comedy a comedy slide, but the essence is, it might be pretty straightforward, but as I say, we see that this is overlooked hugely a lot within the industry. Really strip it back and make it as professional as possible for that particular time. And one thing that I would also like to add is, don't forget your WhatsApp profile, because I know for a fact that some recruiters, if they can't find you on LinkedIn, if they can't find you on Instagram, if they can't find you on Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, they'll look you up on WhatsApp. They'll save your number and they'll go into their phones and they'll see your profile picture from there. So that's something to just kind of flag as well. Whilst we're talking about image and the first impressions, it's probably best to, if we've still got, we all had our first email address. My first email address was King Kelly, which I'm obviously really proud of. Obviously not, but if your email address is something like that, it's probably best to kind of set up a more professional one whilst we're thinking of our job search, essentially. Okay, my second tip is, some of you guys may know this, some of you might not. It's great when we apply for roles on Sex and the City, Reed, CV Library, any of the websites above. But most of these websites actually have a lot more functions that job seekers don't tend to use to the fullest of their capabilities. And one of them is a feature where anybody can basically post their CV up behind the scenes and attach it to a CV database. Now, once you guys actually post your CV up on that candidate database, as a recruitment agency, we will get an alert instantly that somebody has posted their CV on the different websites. So essentially, it's the quickest way for you to dip your toe into the recruitment market, because you can put, these are actual live screen grabs of today, I think it was, of what it actually looks like, from a recruitment agency perspective. So within a few clicks of a button, you can get a whole bunch of people that will be looking for a job for you and doing a lot of the legwork for you. Now, a lot of you will sit here and think, well, recruitment agencies, all they're going to do is start calling me straight away. And yes, they will. And let's be honest, that can be pretty annoying and pretty frustrating. So what I would recommend is that we set an extra filtering tool, a couple of filtering tools at this point, and I wouldn't include any telephone numbers initially. I would put my email address on there, and you will be able to see, you've got these profile boxes here, and probably the same on Sex and the City as well. So you'll be able to see, that's a bad example, sorry. But you'll be able to see that from an agency, there will be a thing that actually says, gives you an opportunity to fill out, to put a profile on there. Now, it's my advice to really fill that in and say, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for, and then you can actually use that as a filtering tool, because if an agency contacts you and says, hey, your CV has come to me online, you're great for this, you're great for this, it shows that they're not paying real attention to detail and looking at what your best interests are right from the outset. Now, by setting this filtering tool, you can use that as whether it's a recruitment agency that you guys actually really want to partner with, because right from word go, they're taking note of what you've actually got to say, and that will be a good indicator of whether or not those recruiters are worth actually speaking to. So we all know what this website is. How many of us aren't on LinkedIn? Everyone's on. Okay, good. So we're all on it already. Do we feel that we've all kind of filled our profiles into the maximum of its capabilities? Because in a job search, there is a lot of other great features for you guys that are hidden behind the scenes. So if your profile, when you're looking for a job, if your profile isn't filled out completely, it's my recommendation that we get it to its actual optimum. There is a feature on there behind the scenes where you can actually show recruiters, this is mine again, this is kind of live, we did this the other day. Does anybody know about this feature here? Does anyone not know about it? Okay, so this feature here, when you set up your profile, you can actually show recruiters that you're actually interested in hearing about opportunities. Now, the thing about this is that you can keep it completely anonymous, and you can choose the job titles, and you can choose exactly what you want to be contacted about, and then you can choose exactly who wants to actually contact you. Now, LinkedIn, essentially, it's now become the #1 platform for job seekers and the recruitment industry. And to be honest, it's a real disruptor for recruitment agencies and the recruitment industry as a whole. There is as you all know, that you'll have to pay to go onto the platform for different profiles and what have you. But unless you work in the recruitment industry, one of the options that you won't know about is the LinkedIn Recruiter license. And my company, we subscribe to it. We have 3 licenses across the business, and that costs us £10,000 a year. But what a lot of big corporates who have got direct in-house recruitment professionals sitting there, they basically sign their guys up to this and essentially cut out a recruitment agency. And by setting your tools to this, essentially you're basically in the market straight away, and people can contact you discreetly without anyone at your work ever knowing. So it's a really powerful tool to use, and you've got all of the other added features with recommendations and and different bits and pieces, and you'll be able to kind of keep up on alerts as well. So that's it's a site that's huge for us, and something that I highly recommend to kind of invest in if you're looking for a new role. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. Recruitment industry and recruitment agencies probably hasn't got the best reputation in the world. I get that, I understand it, and I've seen a lot of practices over the years that I definitely don't agree with. But that is why it's so important for any job seeker, not just PAs, any job seeker, to pick the right recruitment agency, because you go on every single recruitment agency website, mine included, it's going to tell you they're the best in the world. You speak to any recruiter, they're going to tell you that they've got the best jobs, they've got the most diverse client base, they've got everything, and everything is set up for you. But ultimately, are they right for you? And the point is, are they going to do the best for you for your particular job? And you have to make sure that you make that right choice, because if you find a good consultant and a good agency, they really will be worth their weight in gold over the years. Now, not for one second am I saying that I was the best recruitment consultant ever. I wasn't, but I can think of countless people that I found their first job, second, third, fourth, and there are a whole bunch of people that I saw get their first role in their first job in London, and then worked with them all the way up, right up to C-suite level. And when you build that partnership with somebody, you've got somebody that's there, that's always looking after you and keeping you abreast of different activities in the market. Even if you're not actively looking, they should be on your side and thinking, right, okay, this is actually a really good career move for this individual. So that's why it's so important to pick the right agency. It goes without saying, look at people's reviews and make sure that they have loads and loads, and have a really good check of what jobs that they have on. And please be aware of false advertising. I met with a recruiter today that wants to come and work with us, and he was explaining that he is told to advertise vacancies in hedge funds, private equity and derivatives, so he can attract candidates. They don't even work in those sectors, and it's his job to advertise those false vacancies, to then get them in, to then turn them into prospects for a different industry. And he sat there and said, look, is this the way that things should be done? I said, no, of course not. So this happens still in 2020, which is really disappointing. But generally you'll be able to see what a false advert is, because there will be very little information. It will be more, this is amazing, this is great. And I can talk to people individually about that another time. Ultimately, I think if you're speaking to recruitment agencies, it's so vital that you can pick up on the questions that they are actually asking you. I mentioned it previously before, that a job of a recruitment consultant is to find out what you guys are all about and what your job search is. They should be asking questions based on you and what your job search is, not telling you what you're good for. And that is a real kind of key barometer right from the outset, that they're taking time to find out what you guys are about and what you're looking for in your next role. I really suggest that you set out your list of non-negotiables and make them clear from the start. But also remembering not to limit yourself too much as well, because it's worth pointing out that candidates should always be realistic in terms of what market is out there. And I think a good rule of thumb is ambition and realism should kind of go hand in hand, because if somebody say they want agile working or 4 days a week or a role that's perhaps a little bit further away, it's something to kind of consider. But ultimately, any good recruitment agency will be able to tell you straight, and should tell you straight if they think that you're being unrealistic, and give you good justified examples as to why something that you're looking for is perhaps out of reach. Now my next point is the complete opposite to what I've just said. And this might raise a couple of eyebrows, because the last thing that you expect a recruitment agent who owns a recruitment agency is going to tell you is to contact companies directly. And it definitely raises a few eyebrows with my peers in the industry. But with every single company out there looking to make cost savings, I can promise you your CV, if it's basically sent to a company directly, will be really well received. If I were looking for a job today, personally, I would go out and specifically target a whole bunch of companies that fit my values and fit what I'm looking for and the profile that I'm going for, and I would contact them regardless whether they had a job or not. It shows willing, and done in the right way. I know from the companies that I speak to and who are very close clients of mine, they will absolutely love it, because I've had many conversations with them about them. If the company that you approach has got a live job on, then that's obviously great, but if you're not in any rush, don't fret, because 9 times out of 10, their company policy is to hold people's CVs on file for 6 months or so. So if they haven't got a job now and they do in a couple of weeks or a month down the line, you will essentially be at the front of the queue before anybody else. So it's a kind of win-win situation. Contacting the companies directly takes away the middleman, and I know that the problem with our industry is that people do get frustrated at times with recruitment agencies, and people feel that there is a bit of a lack of transparency throughout the process. And taking this approach and contacting these guys will go some way to kind of limit that, and leaves you in complete control your job search. My next point is tailoring our CVs to each specific job spec. Again, this sounds straightforward, but you'll be flabbergasted how many CVs direct hiring managers receive and agencies receive with kind of opening statements like, I'm a wonderful PA looking for a job in the media and the arts, but they've applied to an investment bank. A confident organiser with lots of event management experience, and this is the role that I want, but that's not in the job spec at all. We really need to go through each job spec with a fine-tooth comb and really question the recruiter that's looking after you, if you're using a recruitment agency, to find out what the most important points are from that particular job. And once we have that info, we need to make it very clear right at the top of our CV, so it really pings out. So that's the first thing that they see, because hiring managers see hundreds of CVs, and once they get past the first 10, if they haven't really seen it, they get bored naturally, and we're making sure that our CV separates ourselves from the crowd. So I know that hiring managers like to have more information on the CV, the better. Now, whilst we're on the point of CVs, I was actually on a panel 2 weeks ago now with 4 other direct in-house recruiters who work for companies, and I was the only recruitment agent on there. And we had a question and answer session with PAs about recruitment and how we can, much like this, but it was a bit more of an open forum. And one of the things that came up is, despite popular belief, that hiring managers are actually okay with what could be deemed as jumpy CVs, whether somebody's temped for a long time or been in contract roles for a long time. And it was interesting to kind of have that insight with them, because it's something that we hear a lot from candidates, that people feel that they might get overlooked because their CV is a little bit tempy, should we say. But they all said exactly the same thing. Please make sure that you just explain your reasons and have justifications around it, and really own your experience. And as long as you do that, we're really open, and we actually like the fact that the people's experience is really diverse. I'm not going to talk about consistency and fonts and what have you, and making sure that they're all right and together, because I'm going to assume that we're all on the ball and we know that's the right thing to do. Now, this tip might not be for everybody in the room, okay? But whilst we're here, who hasn't got a smartphone? Has anyone not got a smartphone? Has anyone not taken a selfie of themselves? Okay. And has anyone not spoken on FaceTime or Skype before? Okay, so we all know how to use our phones and this technology to its maximum. Over the last 2 or 3 years, lots of companies now are using video technology as a filtering tool for their process. And lots of companies now are introducing this technology as a first line interview, where they send questions to people's smartphones, and it's there, they read out their answer. But it's my opinion that we need to separate ourselves from the crowd, and we really need to kind of do everything as possible to separate ourselves from the competition. And by shooting our own short video and including it on our CV, will go a massively long way to do that. Now, as I say, this isn't, I understand this isn't something that everybody in this room is going to be comfortable with. But it works in every scenario. If your CV is jumpy because you've temped or you had a focus on contract roles, it gives you a platform to actually explain that. If your experience isn't 100% correct and in line with the job spec, it gives you a chance to explain what your transferable skills are. Now, I have researched this method because it's something that I introduced in my agency 4 years ago, and I researched it with close to 200 different companies, and one firm came back and said they weren't interested in it out of all of that. So this is the way that the market is going, and in 5 to 10 years time, I would say that nearly 100% of first round interviews will be done in this way. So if you guys can kind of introduce it right from the outset, whilst not many other people are doing it, it really is going to be a powerful tool for you guys. It doesn't have to be War and Peace, just something really short and sweet. Hi, my name's Paul. I've been working as a PA for 10 to 15 years. My experience is X, Y, Z. I really love the sound of this job because I get to do X, Y, Z, and this is exactly what my experience is. Thanks for taking the time to see my CV. I really hope I get to meet you in person soon. Simple as that. I promise you a video on the CV will be really well received, and it will definitely separate you from the crowd.
When you say video on it, what you put at the top of your CV?
Yes.
Yeah.
The way that we used to run it in our companies, we had a Dropbox folder, and we would have the link to, we would shoot the video, we would ask questions to a candidate, but now we encourage people to do it, and you can either include an MP4 format on the CV or just a link to a private YouTube video which people can then click onto. Essentially, as I say, going hand in hand with the research that I've done, going back to the point previously when the companies were saying about owning your experience, they all said just explain it, write a cover letter, and that's great. And I said to them, but if we were to do this, they were like, even better. I think ultimately we can all agree that as PAs, one of the most important soft skills is relationship building and building trust and working hand in hand with our partners. How can we actually do that on a document in bullet point format that are 2 to 3 pages long? It's, you know, we can all put sentences on there saying, I've got a great relationship and I can build great skills, but that's words on a paper. With this, it really kind of makes it pings it out to life. And it is a really powerful tool. But as I say, I know it's not going to be for everybody, and that kind of will push people out of their comfort zone. Whilst we're in our job search, we've basically got the most perfect CV. We've tailored it to our job. We've included a great video. The application has been sent. It's time to sit back and sit there with our fingers crossed and wait for the call to get an interview. I would put one last step in place, because now that we're on LinkedIn, it's time to give the hiring manager, where we can, ever so slightly, the smallest little nudges to say, hi, this is me. A simple connection request should do the trick. And if you're feeling brave, a short note that says, hi, I've seen this job, I've just applied for it, that's my CV, really like to hear from you. The hiring manager will then have your CV, have your video intro, professional social media page, all at their fingertips. The next CV they look at, the chances are it will be a 2 to 3 page document, which is generic, which is faceless, and we can all kind of clearly see which one they're going to be more interested in because they've got more information on there. And as I keep saying, when we're looking for a job in today's uber competitive market, it's always about standing out from the crowd. Now this last point is a topic in itself, and we could talk for ages about interview techniques and what have you, but it really is the last piece of the jigsaw in the interview process. And as I say, nailing these interview tips and techniques is, we could talk for hours and days and days. But I've really tried to simplify it for you for this, and essentially it is all in the preparation. Now, experience tells me that the better prepared you are for an interview, the more relaxed you feel. The more relaxed you feel, the easier it is, the easier it becomes to just have a chat. And essentially, having an interview is just having a chat, and it's all about making sure that we are in the most comfortable position to just let it flow as much as we possibly can. When it comes to preparation, the number one reason that we see for candidates being rejected at first round interview is because they have had a lack of preparation within going up to the interview, whether that's lack of preparation and answers and lack of preparation into looking into the company and finding out what they're all about. Now, my advice to you is simplify that process really, really easily. Pick out 3 key points from someone's website that are different and that are relevant to the job that you're going to, because 9 times out of 10 people will go, oh, I know that you've got 100 offices here, or this is that. But if you were to change those answers ever so slightly, I know that you've got a really great wellness plan or CSR project in place. I've seen that the department that I'm going to work in has looked after this deal or looks after these people, was interested in that. And I've seen that as a company, you've come from here to here to here. That's really going to separate you from everybody else. And getting that information will be really straightforward on someone's website, and it makes it clear and concise for you guys, and easy to remember and easy to flow when you have the interview. Again, being prepared for competency-based questions. Again, this is a topic which you go online and there's books, there's guides, and what have you. Again, it's really simplistic. Essentially, we get everybody in recruitment to prepare exactly the same way and really simplify it. When you get a competency-based question, the easiest way to think about it is when you answer the question to set the scene, describing the actual situation that you're in, talk through the actions, talk through what your actions were, and then at the end, explain the outcome. It's as simple as that. And if you can kind of think in those 3 or 4 really simplistic steps, that will put you in a position where you don't waffle, but you'll also answer the questions with depth and detail as well, essentially. And finally, it sounds really silly, but good research of your CV and make sure you know it inside out, because you'll be surprised how many people neglect that point. And when it comes down to it, your CV is the barometer of what the interviewer is going to go off of, and they're going to expect you to know it, as I say, inside out. The last thing that I will say, and I know that this works really, really well on a survey with all of our clients, especially for PAs, is that I would encourage you to take a pack of information with you to the interview. And the first thing that I encourage you to do is when you sit down at the desk, open that pack, and within that pack have your CV, the job spec, company information from the website, and where possible, information on the people that are going to be interviewing you as well. Now, that is a super powerful tool and really sets the tone for the interview, because the first thing that the interviewers will see is that they have a PA in front of them who is super organised, has gone the extra mile, and has done their admin to perfection. And that's the first 3 things that they think about when they see PA sitting there with these packs that's there ready to go. And again, it will separate you from all the other interviews that they have. So in summary, great social media, use the recruitment platforms to their fullest potential, pick the right recruitment agency, ignore them, go to the companies directly, tailor your CV to the job spec, include a video introduction, connect with them in LinkedIn, and do great preparation for the interview.
Can I ask you a question? How long do you think it should be the video introduction?
A minute. Yeah, a minute will be more than enough. Yeah, more than enough.
Sorry, can I just ask, in that video introduction
Mhm.
you sent,
Mhm.
what do you feel like it should cover? Is it, because obviously I assume you'll send a cover letter.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be repeating yourself because you'll have a.
I would.
It's more about person.
It's more about the person, and what I would be recommending is moving away from a cover letter,
Yeah.
and say, here's my video introduction, this is me, and within that video, hi, this is who I am, this is what my experience is, job spec, this is and base it across that.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit about me, and this is why I feel I'm great. Really look forward to hearing from you, essentially. When we first started doing it, we would sit in a room, and we would have a video here, and that just say you're being videoed. Sorry, and I would I would sit here and just ask you some questions about yourself, and we would say ask 4 questions. 1, give us your name and experience, where you're working at the moment, why do you think you're good, and a little bit something like that's outside of work as well. It all depends on the person. Somebody might be really, really comfortable and confident and say, hey, outside of work I like to do X, Y, Z, because I think those things are really important as well. I know a lot of hiring managers specifically look at people's interests and stuff, and if they see something that's a bit different and out of the norm, they like to go with that because it shows a kind of different mindset and what have you. Sorry.
Just quickly.
Yes.
With the recruitment,
Yes.
is it appropriate to ask for detailed explanation as to why you haven't been chosen for a role?
Definitely.
Why?
100%.
And how much information can you actually get from them? Do you guys get feedback that's up to
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it sums up what I was saying earlier about lack of transparency with recruitment agencies. Let's put it like this: how are you going to improve if you don't have information as to why you weren't selected? You know, you can't. You know, you can't improve. It's impossible. So for me, I would say 100% it's acceptable to get as much information as to why. And a good recruitment consultant should sit there and say, well, look, these are the reasons. This is what we need to work on from the next time, and away we go. There are times, and again, when I'm just being 100% honest, there is a client in our, I won't say exactly who they are, but there is a client that we actually had to lodge a formal complaint to someone high above because we weren't actually getting feedback. People were being rejected on interviews, and we weren't being told why. And the client, we kept trying to press the client and say, look, why are we not? What's happening? And that got escalated, and we now resolved the situation. As I say, feedback is everything, because if you don't get it, you're not going to be able to improve. Did you want to? Sorry.
I've still got a question.
Go on. Sorry.
I don't mind. With the LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
So I know you said about obviously filling it in fully.
Yeah.
So for example, mine's just got my list of places I've worked in, so it's the basic from the beginning. And I always think, if I had to look into it, it might look a bit obvious. I was looking for a job. What would you expect to see as a minimum on someone's page?
I think if you're looking for a job, the more information that you can get on there, the better.
But if you didn't want it to suddenly look a bit odd that suddenly you've gone from, 0 to putting everything on.
I understand that, and you're worried about people.
I'm not actually doing it, but if I would suddenly think, that's a bit. If I saw someone else suddenly do it, I'd think, also go around looking at people's pages, but you might think there's a difference.
Yeah, I understand
so
that.
What would be the minimum to give enough information?
Yeah, I think that's the catch-22 because it is a public profile, but there is settings where you can, I think, look, in a job search, more is everything, and more information the better. And there will be settings that you can put on there to say, for example, whatever company you're working in at that particular moment, you can set your profile private to them, so they won't actually see that through the duration of your job search.
What would you like to see if you were looking at it in terms of the detail?
I would like to see the last, depending on how much experience someone has got, I would like to see the last 5 to 10 years experience of the roles that they've been that they've been doing. If you start to put a kind of whole CV based on there, then that will be really obvious. But a list of duties, top 5 to 10 duties would be great. And some of the things that are kind of generic and obvious to the PA sector would be good. But as I say, behind the scenes with the profile that I showed you at the beginning, that is a really powerful tool, because you'll find that lots of direct recruiters, especially, that's what they use. Yeah, and that's the number one thing that they use now, and they just bypass agency fees. They pay that, and they do all their research in through there. No worries.
There's a similar theme actually about the recruiting through LinkedIn. So I personally am looking, and I have my settings on LinkedIn to make recruiters aware that I'm looking. Yes. Does it have any bearing if I make that public? So would you, as a recruiter, view it any differently if I made that public? Because obviously I have a lot of contacts in, either the PA networking world or clients. But they can't see that I'm looking. Yeah. So that is like word of mouth, isn't it?
Of course.
I'm not going to email everyone I know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But if you look at my LinkedIn and I changed it to publicly announcing that I'm looking, would that be viewed any differently?
I think, I don't necessarily think it will be viewed any differently, but I can pretty much guarantee that you'll be bombarded with people contacting you within a couple of hours of doing that. And I guess it depends. again, it depends where you are in your job search. If you're not currently working at the moment, then definitely do that. I'm taking an assumption that that most people are in full-time employment, and kind of looking behind the scenes what you can do that is discreet to your actual employers at the moment. But I don't think the profile will be viewed any differently, favourably or worse. But it will just increase the number of people getting in contact with you. And I think what you'll find is a lot of your community will then share those posts, and word will get around. And I think that you will get big success.
Because I don't think it shouldn't be a secret that you're
No, I agree. I agree.
My guys.
Yeah, and if that is the case, that if that is the case, then I would recommend that's something to look at.
Have you any thoughts on the difference between, is it Premier or Premium, the upgrade on LinkedIn, on what pros and cons are?
Yeah, Premium. I mean, the difference between the accounts on LinkedIn is more about the searchable terms and the actual people that you can search for. So if you're on a basic one, say for example, my LinkedIn account is a basic account which you don't pay for, or you pay a minimal fee to. There will be a limited amount of people that I will actually be able to search, and if you and I are a connection, I won't be able to see any of your connections and then connect with them. Then you have to pay to have access to other people, and you then have limited amount of messages that you can send people as well. Essentially, the more you pay, the more access you get, the more access you get, essentially. But if you're immediately available and you're looking and what have you, and you want to make it quite public, I would make a public show him, and then hopefully these guys in the room can share it, and other people can, then word gets around, and then it could grow organically from there without having to pay too much money.
Because you often get the emails, 702 people have looked at your profile
Yeah.
today, and they all wanted to give you a job, but
Yeah.
you're not going to see it because you haven't paid.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Which, and we get those, but we have to pay £10,000 a year for that. So yeah. So it's but for us it's worth it. For you, it's definitely not. So yeah, I would put it public and see what happens.
On that Premium
Oh,
and
sorry. So no, sorry. Go on. You start. Sorry. Go on.
Do candidates who paid Premium, do they appear higher in your searches, or is there a difference?
As far as I know, no. As far as I know, I'm actually going to LinkedIn. I'm going to their offices next week, actually, for because if I don't know if anyone's seen my LinkedIn, but I do lots of stuff on there that's not just about recruitment. There's lots of different things. So I work really, really closely with them. I'm not part of LinkedIn at all. It's actually the recruiter's enemy, if anything. But I don't actually know the answer to that. It's not something that I know. But when I'm there, if we exchange email address and what have you, I can ask that question and find out directly for you and let you know. Yeah, no worries.
Put in a word for me. I've applied for a job there.
Okay. Have you? Fair enough. Yes.
Just go along with him and stalk them.
I just have one last question.
Yes.
We had another speaker through this jobs, and they advised that at any one time, there's
Yep.
people applying for jobs even though they have jobs.
Okay.
Is there a negative sort of association or stigma around, let's say, I have a full-time job
Yep.
at the moment, but
Mhm.
do recruiters look at it and wonder why you lose that? Is sort of a question mark? Do you have to?
So what you're saying? If you leave, you leave a job and then start looking for.
If I start applying while I still have a job,
Oh, no,
do recruiters sort of look and say, why is she leaving her job, especially if it's a nice company?
Yeah.
to apply?
I'm going to answer that really honestly, and I'm going to answer that really, really honestly from a stereotypical recruitment consultant perspective. I would say it's actually could be the opposite there, that some people will. I had a conversation with somebody today who is a long-standing client of mine. She's gone to a fintech company as an in-house recruiter. She really doesn't like it. She was saying, Paul, what should I do? I think I should just leave. And I said, I nearly said her name then. I said, look, how would you feel if you saw somebody's CV? Look, I'm just talking to you as your friend. How would you see if you saw someone's CV and they've left their position without a job to go to because they wanted to concentrate on their job search? And she said, well, actually, I would be a little bit more dubious. Now I know that everyone's story and circumstance is different, but I would say where possible, from the perspective of making yourself most desirable, I would say to stay in the job and then secure your role, leave, and then move on to the next one. So I'd say it's the opposite to what you say, and that's, again, as I say, everyone's got a different story and everyone's reasons for different, legitimate or what have you, but that's the perception that we see over the years. So hopefully that answers that. No, I mean, stay in the job is there's no set time frame for people that should stay in jobs, but I think it's more of a perception. Yeah, I think it's more of a perception thing that because look, we live in a judgmental world. Okay, I'm just kind of speaking really openly, and honestly, from a recruitment consultant's perspective, or a hiring manager's perspective. They see CVs and they see somebody that has finished work, and okay, why have you finished? Because I finish here because I want to concentrate on getting myself a new job. Instantly they think, well, what was the problem there? There might not have been a problem, but that is the kind of instant thing that some people, and again, I'm not here to offend or anything, but I'm just kind of saying how behind the scenes. So this is how some of these conversations, and I said at the beginning, I want to be honest about our industry, and just talk really openly if I can.
Would it then be better if, say, you were redundant, and when you're redundant sometimes?
Again, I think there's no perfect scenario because life isn't perfect, is it? Let's look at KPMG. Yeah, and what's happened there, and we saw lots of people who were distraught when they came in to see our guys in the office because they've been working there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They thought it was going to be a job for life. So there isn't a perfect solution there isn't a perfect means. Everybody's scenario is everyone's scenario, and if you find yourself in that situation, or you find yourself with perhaps a bit more of a jumpy CV, the research and the conversations that I've had with my clients when I've been putting these things together is that they've all said to own it and just be proud of it. As long as you can explain it, then that's what they're looking for.
Do you think, so this is slightly different to what we're talking about,
Yeah.
with job titles, you can be targeted, you can go for a job,
Yeah.
and you can be administrator in one
Yeah.
organisation,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be going for PA jobs.
Yep.
But then your CV could also have where you've been in PA
Yep.
before,
Mm-hmm.
but because you're now in different companies,
Yep.
PAs are now administrators, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly,
Yep.
well then previously they were secretaries.
Yes.
So does that matter now? Because I don't hear.
I think, yeah.
If I was a PA,
Yeah.
am I more likely to get a job as a PA?
I think I think it's a great question. Really, it's a really interesting one because the conversation around job titles comes up all of the time, and it comes up all the time. And look, whilst you were talking about that, I was thinking about an investment bank that registered a job with my colleague today, which is an administration job, but essentially it's a PA job. And if we go back a couple of steps to what I was saying earlier about the job specification and tailoring our CV to that, you can't lie on your CV. If your job title is administration assistant, then you can't, okay? And if an agency says, oh, just put it as PA, you want to walk away from that person and not deal with them again because that's not the right advice. But if you're making sure that your job duties actually accentuate those things, and then video introduction, say, hey, it's the perfect opportunity to say, I am an admin assistant by job title, but my role is very much a PA-based position, and I actually get involved in X, Y, Z. Or if you're not comfortable doing that, a cover letter. Or an agency should be sitting there saying to their client, look, I've got this candidate, this is their job title, but just ignore it, because this is what they do on a day-to-day basis, and that's what good recruiters do. And they're the types of people that you want to be partnering with. But if it's down to you, make sure your experience really pops out that's based on that. Because you can't, the job title is governed by your employer, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
What about length of service?
Length of service?
How is that seen? Either way, so someone
Yeah.
who spent 20 years in the same company, or someone who moves around every year or
Okay.
2 years?
The information that I've been given 2 weeks ago, and the information that I was given 2 weeks ago, is that people actually quite like that, quite like the diverse industries and sectors. I think it depends on the role, and I think it would depend on a role to role basis. Now, if you've got an old school senior partner in accountancy and a law firm who's got a really old school way of working, are they going to want someone who's been working 1 to 2 years? Probably not. If you've got a fintech startup that's in Shoreditch where they're coming in shorts and flip flops, are they going to want somebody that's got an old school style of working? Probably not. They're going to want the other way. So again, I think it goes back to a role by role basis. But again, the information that I've been given is really just own that experience and be proud of it and make the most of it, because there are roles out there for everybody, and regardless of their level of experience, there'll be people in this industry that want that experience.
On the back of that,
Yes.
like I've been in my company for a very long time.
Yeah.
When I have tried to find other jobs whilst I've been working, but go into a different field, because obviously I've been in finance for Barclays. I've been in finance for a long time. They don't want to take somebody in a different field because you've been in that position for such a long time. How do you get around that?
Yeah, I think, look, I admit that sometimes it can be tough making the jump into one sector into another. I can think of a number of different companies that we've helped over the years. Accountancies won't take people from law firms won't take people from investment banks, or this and this. There's no simple answer to that, unfortunately, because again, I haven't got answers for what a specific company is going to want in a person. And if they've got a preconceived idea of this is what they want to see, it can be very difficult to dissuade them in that. If I'm 100%, I'm just being really honest with you.
No, that's what I've come across.
Yeah, but again, from a recruitment consultant's perspective, a good consultant will sit there and say to you, well, look, okay, I have this job on at XYZ. You might say, I'm really interested in that. Look, it might be a bit tricky because they've asked for somebody that wants ABC. I think you're really good, so let's speak to them and see what they have to say. Again, using little things like the video introduction. We have seen, when we introduced that, we saw candidates that we couldn't find roles for because on paper their CVs were XYZ. They saw the introduction, and then the clients looked at it and be like, these are one of our best hires, and they were actually a no before that they saw that. So again, it's something that could, not guaranteed, of course, but something that will go away to kind of help you with that.
In the introductions, not just on the PA, because I do extra work as well, and they do that every time you get a job. That's what you have to do.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
and that's how they pick. They don't pick from what
Yep.
you've said.
Exactly.
They pick from
And as I say, yeah, and we started it 4 years ago. When we did it, everyone was like, "What is this?" You know, and it does work. But in 5 to 10 years, every single company, I would say 90% of interviews that will be the first round, and it's just trying to be one step ahead of that.
Honestly, it's not a question, but I was going to say, I view that as what we do is transferable skills.
Yeah.
So theoretically, you can work for anyone.
I agree.
Industry,
Yeah.
Because it's not, you don't have the industry knowledge that they have, like the technical staff, for example. I work with quantity surveyors and project managers. I couldn't give a shit what they do. It doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
So that was one of our projects outside.
Yeah.
That guy was just sitting there looking really bored.
Yeah.
With that blue box.
Yeah, with
I
that
couldn't
crazy
say that.
contraption going back and forth. Yeah. Did anyone else think, what the hell is going on when you saw that? Okay, right. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that bit doesn't matter. So we can work for anyone and anywhere. But I think definitely for what our line of work is very much your personality.
Yeah.
I think
But
that
it's
is because everybody should be able to do the job.
Yeah.
But it's who you are.
Definitely.
But they're very prejudiced. I've come across it.
You're selling yourself then, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to.
But if you've been in a company for such a long time, like I have, it's just like they go, "Oh, you've been in finance for 20 years," so it's like.
I guess that's why Paul's saying that where the video interview then becomes a completely different
Yeah.
take on it.
Yeah.
But they sometimes think if you've been in finance for like 20 years, that you're institutionalised and that's all you can actually deal with.
Yeah, you're right.
But you can't be fun. You can't wear flip
Oh, I am fine.
Good stuff.
Law firms are very specialised.
They are. They are. They are. And at the beginning of my career, I recruited, not exclusively, but a large percentage of my client base was in law firms. So we've got a lot of experience in that field. So there have been incidences over the years where they've taken people from different sectors and what have you, and it's worked really well. But there's been another incidence where I can think of one firm in particular. They went down a certain road, and it was a bit of a disaster. I won't kind of talk too much about that. But,
I came across a completely different thing. I've sent
Okay.
my CV, and
Yeah.
the agency took it upon themselves to basically half it for a second interview.
yeah,
He asked me, can you use Excel sheets?
yeah,
And I'm part qualified accountant.
yeah.
And have an
And it was off. Yeah.
thinking, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. May I see the CV? And then
Wow.
I couldn't say anything
Okay.
because I didn't want the agency. I mean, I didn't say, well, I don't know what kind of CV
Mhm.
you have. This is not my CV.
Yeah.
Because we all look like idiots, and I walked away from it.
I mean,
So I don't
I
really
have a slightly different view. I think that you could have thrown that recruitment agency under the bus. Yeah, I'm sorry to be, again, like just speak my mind, but they shouldn't be doing that. You know, and if we are consultants, and my advice to my consultants is, if you've got a candidate who is really good but doesn't look good on paper, sit down with them, explain that to them, and say, you're brilliant, but your CV could be better, and work with them. It takes, what, half an hour? Ultimately, it should be you doing your CV always, because it's your experience, so you will be able to explain it way better than I could or any other recruitment consultant can, because it's what you do on a day-to-day basis. But the recruiter should be saying to you, in my opinion, for these particular jobs, I think you could work on your CV. You can include this, include this, include this, and then you've got the perfect package.
I went back to them and I said, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
understand this. I mean, I haven't. Why
Yeah.
don't you email me at least
Yeah.
a copy that you sent out?
Yeah.
Because I'm prepared.
Mhm.
They said, well, you were far too overqualified. He doesn't like smart.
Yeah.
I work in family offices.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
their particular client.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
But I would say for a family office, surely somebody with that experience, in my opinion. But anyway, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it is what it is.
Okay.
That ship has sailed.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to
Sorry. Yes. So, okay. I didn't expect so many. Sorry, Carol. Yes.
Industries do you guys?
We work in a number of different sectors. We've got jobs in investment banks, accountancy, insurance, finance, legal, sports clubs. So, thanks for your time. You've been great. Thank you. Thank you.